Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming into the show. We are going to preview a little bit of Bears Cardinals this weekend, but we want to talk about some Bears in general, have a little festive fun here with a returning guest. You might know him from Bears Daily Wire, but you also might know him from his TV appearances recently. He's a fantastic Twitter follow. He's our friend of the show. It's Brendan Sugrue. How are you, man?
What's up, Joey? Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I'm doing well. It's the start of Christmas break, really. So I'm so excited to get some time off and just really focus on the Bears these final 3 games. And yeah, so hope you're doing well as well. I'm excited to be back and talking Bears with you.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. It's an exciting time. It's the holiday season. Unfortunately, it looks like for the Chicago Bears, we've had to put away our hunting gear. I don't see any of your hunting materials out with you in the frame right now, unfortunately. So let's just dive right into these final 3 games. What's so interesting about the Chicago Bears right now, Brendan, is that we're coming to a place where everyone's going to have to, and maybe this is just the zeitgeist of our times, and especially if you live on social media and love to post on social media, everyone has to take a stand on something. Everyone has to draw some sort of line in the sand and say, what side of the fence are you on? So let's start with the Chicago Bears in general. Where are you standing with these final 3 games? What would you like to see as a fan, as an analysis, and as an analyst? Where are you, and what do you want to see from the Chicago Bears over these final 3 games?
Well, I would say besides from just continuing to see Justin Fields, see what he can do, it seems like we're not moving the goalpost, but 5 games left. Let's see what he can do. 4 games left, 3 games left, whatever. Just continuing to see what he can do with these final few games and seeing if he can even recapture some of the magic that he had earlier this season, like against Washington or Denver. But really the biggest thing I'm looking for now, 2 things I would say. One, how does the offense respond after just yet another dismal game plan? They couldn't do anything against the Browns. They couldn't run the ball. Their passing attack was very hit or miss. Does Luke Getsy bounce back against a Cardinals defense that is not even close to the level as the Browns? And then even bigger, I want to see if these players continue to fight for Matt Eberflus and to fight for this team, because this game against the Browns really was kind of that last gasp effort to get in the playoffs. I know they're not technically eliminated yet. There's like a maybe 3% chance, but for all intents and purposes, it ended last week. And so now you're kind of just playing for pride and you're trying to finish out the season on a high note. Are we still going to get the same effort? Is the defense going to continue to play with that ferociousness that we've seen? Are they going to continue to kind of back the coach on the field? Because we start to see some of these teams maybe quit a little bit. Obviously, the Chargers a week ago was the biggest example with Brandon Staley getting fired. But I really want to see just how these guys play for pride and what that looks like over these final 3 games, because they know, and we all know, that a lot of change could be coming after the season.
You're making a great point about the defensive side of the ball, because you definitely hope that, we've seen that they've been building towards something for a little while. So now a little bit of the air is out of the balloon. When we talk about playoff hopes, you hope that can continue to progress, because if they can walk into the offseason feeling really, really great about that unit and feel like, hey, if we target a couple additional pieces, maybe re-sign Jalen Johnson, that unit is ready to go. That is a set it, forget it type situation. I want to follow up with you a little bit, because I'm just kind of curious. Look, for the Chicago Bears in the Matt Eberflus era, I've had to do something that I haven't really had to do my entire Bears life. And there's been moments in these last 2 years where, I'll be honest with you and transparent with this Bears audience, I have rooted for losses at times. It feels terrible. And honestly, I think that's probably a big reason of how I personally feel about Matt Eberflus and his future with the Chicago Bears. On your side personally, over these last 3 games, are you a guy that's saying, hey, I'm kind of starting to look at this draft pick selection, the Bears pick specifically, and if we lose these final 3 games, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world? Or are you hoping that with great performance turns into success, and success turns into victories?
Definitely the second. Success turns into victories, because we're already kind of looking at the Carolina pick anyway, and that very likely will be 1 or 2, hopefully 1. But I just think that there's so many young players on this defense, especially, and even offense too. But we went through the rooting for losses last year, and it wasn't fun. And a lot of those guys, maybe they were just, one and dones, but you can now see the core of this team forming. And whether Matt Eberflus is a part of it next year or not, many of these players are, and you want to see them playing for each other and believing in what they're doing and using this season as a catapult going into next season, whoever their coach is going to be. They talked a lot, man, this offseason. I'm sure you remember everybody's talking like, this is going to be scary. We're going to have a scary defense. And now we're finally seeing it. And it would just be such, you said it, taking the air out of the balloon. That would be such a huge letdown going into the end of the season, because now the culture probably starts to get a little worse. You start to not maybe question some of these young players, like, can they actually rise to the occasion? And that's on both sides of the ball too. I think we've seen with Darnell Wright, with DJ Moore being a team leader, some of the young pieces on the offensive line, and of course Justin Fields. Like, I would love, my heart wants Justin Fields to ball out and make this like not a conversation anymore. Like, he is the guy that can be built around going into next year. But I don't know. Like, there's a lot that goes into that still. So yeah, I want to see success. Life is too short, Joey, to root for losses and to just play for the offseason. I've said it. I'm sick of playing the season to get to the draft. I want to draft to get to the season, to be excited about the regular season. Like, we are only guaranteed so many Bears games in our lifetime. I want to win them.
It's a disgusting feeling. I mean, look,
yeah.
Brendan, I am the guy. I am the guy who literally goes, if we're down by 10 with a minute 23 left, I start doing the math, right? And figuring out ways of like, well, if we can score, you know what I mean? I literally grind it down to the very second. I'm that kind of like, I'm what's the opposite of fatalist in terms of optimism of the Chicago Bears winning. In the last couple of years, we've really had a scoreboard watch, and it's a disgusting feeling. And when the Bears started 0-4 this year, that feeling started to creep in again. And then Justin Fields got hurt. That feeling started to creep in for me. But I'm with you. Ever since Fields came back and we start to see this defense turn around a little bit, I have been rooting for wins, even though I think Matt Eberflus isn't the coach of the future. And you're bringing up such an interesting point that I think Chicago Bears fans need to keep an eye on here over these last couple of weeks is, unlike the previous Ryan Pace regime, where we would say to ourselves, what do some of these games mean, or what does making the playoffs mean? We could always kind of say, well, some of these guys aren't going to be a part of our future moving forward. Maybe we're better off this way, X, Y, and Z. But you're bringing up such a great point that this is such a young team, and that everyone is still on their first rookie contract. The core is in place, I think, on defense, and we're building a core offensively. And you're right. The latter share, there's a large portion of these guys that are on this team right now. They're going to be back next year. So I do think, and I'm in agreement with you, that winning games is a good thing for the Chicago Bears heading towards the end, even if we, God forbid, fall out of the top 10 with our Bears pick in the first round next year.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to fall too far, honestly. There's a lot of parity in the NFL. It's crazy. Like I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, the Bears were in the hunt, maybe not according to some people, but to many people, at 5-8. And yet they had a top 5 pick, like with their own pick. It was insane. So the fact that there's a lot of parity still, there's a lot of moving parts. I think the Bears could still win a couple games, maybe get to that 7-win threshold, but still have close to a top 5 pick because just of where their strength of schedule is, as well as just the parity in the rest of the league. So to be honest, is it too much to ask for both? That's how I feel.
We're here talking to Brendan Sugrue here on Believe in Bears. Let's do it, man. Let's spend a little time on it. Look, this can go in a lot of different directions. I want to cover a lot of different bases, but everyone watching this right now on Sports Talk Chicago or listening to this on the Believe Network or wherever you get your podcast, get your comment fingers ready because we are going to now talk about Justin Fields. Let's just open it up and let's keep it pretty broad out there. Where do you land on the do or die season of Justin Fields up to this point? I know that you mentioned and teased a little bit what he could possibly prove over the last 3 games. Let's just start with you personally, and then we'll go to organizationally what they maybe think about it. Where do you land in terms of the future with Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears today?
Well, it's 2 conversations, really. And I alluded to it earlier. My heart desperately wants them to build around Justin Fields. You hear him talk. You see the leader that he is. You see how his teammates rally around him. They're talking about, we don't think a rookie coming in here is going to be better than what Justin Fields provides to this team. Like, he's given it his all, as he talked with Caitlin Sharkey on WGN on Thursday night. But with the position that the Bears are in, you have the chance once again to get the number 1 overall pick in a much richer quarterback class. Generally, not saying anybody's generational, we don't need to use that word, but there are 2 quarterbacks here that are clear-cut options that you can say, I can build a team around this guy. And because of the circumstances there, my head tells me that it makes sense to get a rookie quarterback in, whether it's Caleb Williams, Drake May, or somebody else. And it's for a number of reasons. I could go on for an hour, but I'm putting myself in Ryan Poles' shoes as a going into his 3rd year as general manager. He had not yet taken a quarterback with one of his first picks. He now has the chance to pick within the top 3 for the 2nd time in 2 years. You just can't pass up a quarterback there. That's how you lose a job. Yeah. This guarantees him job security, but also extends the window of competition, because even though you could go into next season with Justin Fields entering his final year for his rookie contract and then picking up his 5th year option, that's not a good business decision, because you have to commit one way or the other. Otherwise, you're continuing to mess with the timelines. Like, okay, we're going to build around Justin Fields, and let's hope that once we get another wide receiver in and maybe a left tackle, that things are finally going to click now. And maybe they get like a little bit better, but then you still have question marks. Now you're committed to him for, what is it, like maybe $15 million, $20 million, I can't remember what it is, going into 2025. But now you're like, well, do we extend him? Are we closer to finding another quarterback in the draft? There's a lot more unknowns in the future. Even though there's an unknown with a rookie quarterback, it's a little bit more, it's right in front of you, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, with the opportunity to take one. So my heart wants him to stay. I really do. But my head tells me it makes sense to move on, because you just extend that window and it makes sense for the organization, even though it's an unpopular opinion among many.
Yeah, I believe it'd be $25 million, I think, in 2025.
Okay.
For Justin Fields in that 5th year. And obviously you would have the decision there. And Dan Wiederer, to his credit, we're giving shout outs to great reporters and friends of the show. Dan Wiederer put out a great tweet too, as well, that Bears fans, there aren't a lot of quarterbacks over the last 15 years that have even made it to a 2nd contract with their current team. I think it was Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Ryan Tannehill, and I'm missing like one other person, but the list was really, really, really small. So I'm starting to wrap my head around that, this isn't that different of a situation that you see commonly in the NFL, of a guy, moving on to a different team, and obviously not continuing on with the team that drafted him through his 2nd contract. Now, I will say that I'm in complete agreement with you that I love everything about Justin Fields, right? I love everything about Justin Fields. And while we're all typing probably in the comments right now about his won and loss record, a lot of that has to do with a lot of the situations and circumstances that came into his career. I kind of get really annoyed with the one loss record people, that we kind of all said to ourselves that the Matt Nagy year wasn't going to count. We ran that narrative for a long time. It looks like we all kind of shook hands with it, and now we're kind of digging it out of the dirt and bringing it back up and lumping it into his career record. Clearly, we tried to tank on purpose last year, and this was the first year that we actually made a concerted effort to be maybe a little bit more competitive in the NFL. And I'm with you, man. I love everything about Justin Fields. I think I can't say for sure that the city is behind him, because he's a pretty polarizing topic out here, but in the locker room, you can tell that they're 100% behind him. The flashes are there. The physical makeup is there. I think the mental aspect and the leadership aspect is there. The only thing that isn't there are the wins and the consistency passing. And we can obviously go into, is that Luke Getsy? Is that Justin Fields? Does it get better? Does it get worse? Do we bang our head on that particular ceiling? My only counter, and I want to just get your point on it, is get your take on it, is, when we talk about the rookie clock with a quarterback, there's a lot of different ways to slice that up, though, right? Where, wouldn't you say, if we could just take all things aside, if Justin Fields was a consistent passer or whatever, or maybe he shows it over the last 3 games, isn't the best thing for the Chicago Bears franchise, isn't the healthiest thing for the franchise actually that Justin Fields remains the starting quarterback of the Bears, and then we trade the number 1 pick for a lot of other draft capital? Because my counter to that is, well, you're going to have to pay Justin Fields all this money. Well, if you have 3, 4, 5 players that are now starters on rookie contracts for 5 years, that in my opinion, it kind of negates the reason of why you're spending it on Justin Fields in the first place in the cap. Like, those dollars have to go somewhere. If it's Caleb Williams on a rookie deal, you are still spending that in the free agency and trying to get that right, spending money on other players. So isn't the healthiest thing for the Bears franchise actually would be to keep Justin Fields? If all things considered, he was maybe more of a consistent passer?
Well, I mean, you just said it. If he's a more consistent passer, that's kind of the issue.
That's the shame. That's the shame.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because it is a good point where you look at last year, the Bears essentially, with the number 1 overall pick, they got Darnell Wright. They got DJ Moore, 2 of the cornerstones now of your team that have helped this offense get better. I mean, DJ Moore is already showing one of the best wide receivers, and you did that because you traded the number 1 overall pick instead of picking a quarterback there.
And to interject really quickly, and because they did that, they did not spend money on Jacoby Myers, and they did not spend money on Mike McGlinchey. And we are still we still have salary cap health. So there's you're making a great point. There's actual evidence of when we traded the pick, our salary cap is still in a healthy position, and we have strong players on really decent deals, especially the rookie contract of Darnell Wright.
Yes, and I didn't even mention Tyreek Stevenson either with the 2nd round pick that the Panthers got. I mean, that's another, building block on your defense. The only issue is you expected Justin Fields to kind of take that leap. And I think he took a step. He didn't take a leap. And so you have to say, is that enough to do the same thing again and roll the dice and hope that this leap finally comes when you can get another wide receiver, another offensive lineman, a center? God knows we need that. So I think it's just hard to do that 2 years in a row. And something I wrote in BearsWire this past week, I'm just starting to think about, Justin Fields isn't the problem. He's not the problem for the Bears. I think hopefully people see that. But I don't know if he's the solution either, because you kind of want a guy that you can win with no matter what, or at least kind of remain very, very competitive into all these games. And just Fields has not shown that, especially in the 4th quarter. I think that's a big problem with him, of not being able to deliver in crunch time. We still see issues of lacking urgency in the pocket. Of course, you see the flash plays, like that throw to Cole Kmet for the touchdown against the Browns was beautiful. Not many quarterbacks can make that. But if you're not convinced that Justin Fields is the solution, I think you need to take a swing to find a guy who is a solution like that, because it's a huge gamble for a GM that frankly does not have the pedigree to make kind of these dice rolls. I mean, you're not somebody like Brett Veach for the Chiefs, or somebody like Brandon Beane with the Bills. Like, it's hard to kind of do that when you haven't had success yet. It would be different, I think, if Poles was with the Bears for a longer time and had previous success. So, but I think that like I said, there is something to be said for the fact that you can parlay that pick into multiple picks, continue to build your team. But I do question if Justin Fields can consistently do it. And it's frustrating because the flashes are there and you get so excited, and then he takes a bad sack, or he misses a throw, or doesn't throw it on time. And we just kind of continue in this seesaw where it's up and down and up and down. So, I'll just say this. This is going to be the most intriguing and just wild offseason in Bears history.
I know. Are you mentally prepared for it? I mean, I'm asking you as a friend, right? Because I mean, let's be honest, Bears Twitter. Look, I've only been on Twitter for a couple of years, so maybe help me out, if I'm not seeing the right kind of perspective. But honestly, Bears Twitter has kind of nosedived a little bit over the last couple of months. I mean, people have gotten really, really, really nasty about it. And to be honest with you, this isn't my bit. This is somebody else's, but it's completely true. Is that at the end of the day, guys, we're all Bears fans. You know what I mean? It's gotten so nasty between the people that want to defend Justin Fields, the people that don't like Justin Fields, the people that like Tyson Bagent. You know what I mean? Honestly, there's a little bit of everything out there. Are you mentally prepared for what it's going to be like? Because, yeah, man, you're right. The draft isn't until April 25th. And this is a topic of conversation now, tomorrow, in 2024. And at least for the next, 120 days, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think I am, because back in September and October, I've pretty much already said, no matter what happens, people are going to be pissed. It's the reality. The Bears keep Justin Fields. half the fan base. Why did you pass on a rookie quarterback? Fields has generational talent. He's amazing. Like, you have the first overall pick in a good quarterback class. And then the people, whatever happens where you take Caleb Williams or something, like, you're going to screw up another quarterback. There's no way Fields, like the Bears did Fields dirty, blah, blah, blah. I really am preparing myself because I just don't think anybody's going to be happy with this. Maybe they pull a wild card and just sign Kirk Cousins and then piss everybody off, which would be hilarious. Like,
or number 3.
Yeah. But it just feels like every quarterback that the Bears have had has become a little bit more polarizing. And it's, of course, compounded with the fact that social media has become more rampant. Like Jay Cutler, very polarizing figure. A lot of people just, love Jay, hate Jay, whatever. We saw the same thing with Trubisky. There's still Trubisky truthers out there, God bless them, who think that Mitch was a good quarterback. It was done dirty and he could still be a viable option. And now we come to Justin Fields, where it's very similar. It's just the way of being a Chicago Bears quarterback. You're going to have, I forget who it was. Maybe it was Tom Thayer on ESPN 1000 yesterday, but he said the Bears quarterback position is like a politician. 49% of you are going to hate him, and then 51% are going to like him. So it's just, it is what it is.
Because at some point, and I say this to myself all the time, at some point, if you've never had a great quarterback on your favorite team before, do you really know what a great quarterback is? Right? Until they go out and then prove it to you. And what we do is that we bitch and debate and bemoan, this, and we trade one clip of amazing Justin, and then the other person trades one clip of not so amazing Justin, and it just goes back and forth, and then it turns into kind of like this little cherry picking situation. Yep. Before we get to our fun little Christmas segment here to wrap up the show, I do want to get your thought on Caleb Williams and Drake May. Look, as we're taping this right now, we have Christmas hats on, everyone, so just realize that there's a lot of work to be done. Opinions can change. I just want to get your take on, let's just start with Caleb for right now. On my personal side of things, I'm just trying to think in my mind of, there's probably a handful of quarterbacks in my lifetime that when I would watch in a college game, I would just see and immediately understand how it could translate to the NFL level and say to myself, wow, this guy could be a really, a real problem, whether it was athleticism, whether it was efficiency, whether it was just, kind of just the way that they threw the football. And honestly, for me personally, it was Andrew Luck. I felt that way about. I did feel that way about Trevor Lawrence. Mm-hmm. I felt that way about Deshaun Watson. I felt that way about Joe Burrow. And I probably felt that way about Cam Newton, I want to say. Those are probably like the 5 guys that I saw in college, and I said, this just makes a lot of sense. This is gonna work out in the NFL. And I'll be honest with you, I watched Caleb Williams, and I don't know if I'm 100% sold yet. And I want to get your take on it. I think he's a little small. The arm talent is fantastic. The arm angles are unbelievable. But to be very frank with you, I'm kind of sick and tired of a guy wiggling away from 5 different defenders, chucking the ball up in the air, and an amazing play happens out of it. Dare I say, maybe I just want a little boring. Maybe I want a little more structure. Where do you land? Where do you land right now today on Caleb Williams?
I still think he's the best quarterback in the draft. And I'm with you because I was debating this, I think, last week, where people, I've kind of said, I think people are just mad about the generational label. But there is a difference between generational and clear-cut top of the class, who very well could be a very good quarterback. And that's where I land with Caleb Williams. It is interesting. He is smaller than you would think, because he does pack such a big arm. Look, he does. It's so cliche, and I hate that I'm about to say it, but he does remind me a bit of Mahomes in college, where if you remember watching Mahomes in college specifically, he was wild in the pocket. There was no structure whatsoever, but he had a big arm and he was able to make any sort of play, but there was also a lot of bad with that. And so the question comes, Caleb Williams, wherever he goes, he needs to have a structured offense and a good coaching staff to get the most out of him, because Patrick Mahomes very well could have gone to a different team and maybe he still could have been good, but there were a lot of flaws with this game that needed to be worked out, and Andy Reid was able to do that. So I do have concerns that Caleb Williams comes into Chicago, for example, and has a lot of the issues that Justin Fields does, where you're holding onto the ball too long, you're trying to make something out of nothing, and sometimes you just, take unnecessary sacks or just miss the easy read. You said it, maybe you just want a guy who could do a 3-step drop and hit a slant over the middle with precision. I don't know if Caleb Williams is that guy, but because he's such a dynamic athlete, he's very desirable, I would say. So I do like him. I really do think he needs to go to a good coaching staff to get the most out of him. Otherwise, you're going to have a very up and down quarterback.
Yeah, I think pre-snap, post-snap, I think he has skills that perhaps are even maybe better than Justin's right now, where I think he does a lot of great manipulation with his body. You see it do it with his eyes a little bit. I think he's really great. That's when they talk about instinctually during the play. I think he's really strong on that front. But again, yeah, I'm just like, I look at the size and you kind of run it back a little bit and you're like, man, Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, how many of these quarterbacks at this height actually won a Super Bowl? And whenever you put Drew Brees into a category, you can't comp him to anybody. I just think he was one of the more cerebral, accurate, incredible quarterbacks of our time. So it's really not even very fair. And I'm with you, man. I think a structure is going to be really important for Caleb Williams moving forward, especially in those first couple of years, because remember, everybody, even a Trevor Lawrence, who I think Jacksonville is happy with right now. And I think if we draft a guy like a Trevor Lawrence and move on from Justin Fields, I think you can at least be happy as a Bears fan that you did the right thing at least like a net wash at the very least. But keep in mind too, in his first season, 12 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. He started off really rough. They didn't make the playoffs last year, but that start of the season was super rough for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, I mean, it still took the dude 20 plus starts to even begin to scratch the surface of the person that he is now. And I think we can all agree that Trevor Lawrence is an unfinished product. So again, it's a process with a guy like Caleb Williams or whoever you draft. What is your take on Drake May? Personally, as I stand right now, I love him physically. He has a great throwing arm. But if it's between Justin Fields and Drake May, I'm actually going Justin Fields right now. Where are you with Drake May?
I'm still undecided. I'm still undecided on Drake May. Full disclosure, I have not watched enough games of him yet because every single time, I swear to God, like when it was like a primetime North Carolina game or something where I was like, okay, I'm going out of my way to watch this instead of Notre Dame, who I love, or Caleb Williams with USC. I couldn't get it. I was so mad. It was like on ACC Network, and apparently I don't get that. So I've just watched a few highlights. I do agree he has a big arm. I think he can make some of those big throws, and he does remind me. He is a gamer because he's had those games where he just kind of helps will the team to win or at least keep them in it when all hope seems lost. But full disclosure, I need to do more homework on him. I don't, and I'm trying to every time I watch him just get the Trubisky clips out of my mind. I know they're different.
He kind of looks like him. He sort of kind of looks like him.
Yeah, it's really hard. Like the same number, same school. Like obviously we know they're not the same player, but when you just see that for so long, you're like, just get out of my head. All right, this is a different guy. I know they're not the same player. And May has had more, at least college success than Trubisky had, so that's a positive. But well, before we move off the college quarterbacks too, is there anybody else that piques your interest? I've watched a lot of Michael Penix, a lot of Bo Nix, Jane Daniels, JJ McCarthy. Is it kind of those two potentially for you, or do you can you talk yourself into one of the other guys?
I mean, look here, there's a trapdoor scenario with this, right? That I don't think a lot of people are talking about, but it is possible. It would take several moves, right? Move one would be the Chicago Bears hire Jim Harbaugh, and they move on from Justin Fields. And with Jim Harbaugh wants to do something else, so we trade the first pick in the draft, and everyone goes, what the hell is going on? We don't have a quarterback. And then they wait and they go off and they take a guy like JJ McCarthy. Now, JJ McCarthy, in my opinion, the dude's a winner. Obviously, Jim Harbaugh, I would feel a little bit more I'd be a little squeamish about moving on from Justin for JJ, but I would be a little bit more comfortable about it because Harbaugh's had him for the last 4 years, so he knows what he's capable of if they actually ask him to throw the ball more than 20 times a game, which was never really necessary at any point during this season. I do value, and we're seeing it a lot in the NFL right now, guys that come from winning programs who just know how to win or make the right play at the right moment. Or, hey, we've seen it. We've just talked about it with Justin Fields. Hey, we need 60 yards right here. We need 60 yards and 3 points. And you need to go out and get it for us. And the great quarterbacks used to be able to go out and do that. I think J.J. McCarthy can be a guy that can eventually do that. I'll be honest with you. I think his throwing motion is really long, just in my opinion. So I don't know if that's correctable or something that would change perhaps his accuracy moving forward. Other than that, look, like Michael Penix, all season long. And look, I've been talking to a lot of guys, especially some former athletes and guys that played at big time college programs. It's just like, hey, so what's up with Michael Penix? Because I love the guy. His arm strength isn't the top, the top shelf, if you will, but the dude delivers the ball like Steve Young. It's pretty incredible. I know the lefty comp is super easy to do, but everything is pinpoint. It's accurate. And we're going to find out in a couple of weeks, because I know everyone out there is going, Alabama's going to win. Michigan's going to win the national title. Right now, Washington is plus 750, and he's the best quarterback left among the four. So if you believe in quarterback play, when we talk about football, Michael Penix, I think, has a real opportunity to go out there. Now, he's not putting up big numbers, but he scores 24 points every single game. The only problem is I think he's only 6 months younger than Justin Fields is right now. And he's had knee problems. So I just don't think he's going to be in those crosshairs for the Chicago Bears. When we talk about Jaden Daniels, great prospect, too light, too skinny of a frame. Personally, if we're talking about that when we do risk analysis, I'm probably sticking with Justin Fields there. Bo Nix doesn't really do it for me too as well, because a little bit of the age factor. So, I mean, I don't know. That's just kind of where I land on some of those guys. I think some of those guys can have some successful, productive careers. But again, the Chicago Bears are in such an interesting position, right? Because Brendan, let's be honest, like if we didn't have the number one pick right now, would we even be having this conversation? I don't think we would be arguing over JJ McCarthy versus Justin Fields. I just don't think we would, because we have the number one pick. It's just this rare situation where we have to hold Justin to this really, really stiff standard right now to make it, have it make sense why we would move off of not taking quarterback number one.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Like I said, Justin Fields has taken steps. He hasn't taken leaps, but if the Bears had like the maybe 10th or 12th overall pick, and they didn't have that just gold mine with the number one, you could easily say that, we're going to run it back with Justin. We're going to see what happens. Yeah. Maybe we explore other guys, maybe like a second or third round pick, but for all intents and purposes, Justin Fields is going to be the Bears starting quarterback in 2024. And there's not much debate about it, and it's not fair to Fields at all. Like this was just kind of handed to him, or handed to the Bears. And now he has to be the one to sort of outperform everyone and exceed expectations to make sure that he remains the Bears quarterback. It's not fair at all. And, we can argue just how dirty the Bears organization did him from the start with just pairing him with a lame duck head coach and a lame duck general manager. I did the work a year and a half ago, and it showed that since the rookie wage scale was implemented in 2011, 4 quarterbacks before Justin Fields were taken in the first round where their GMs were fired, not coaches, but GMs too, fired the following season. None of those guys got contract extensions with the team that drafted them. It was Brandon Weeden, Marcus Mariota, Sam Darnold, and Dwayne Haskins. And we know what happened with Dwayne Haskins, but he still moved on to another team before that. So that's what it shows. Like history shows that, Fields was already put behind the 8 ball with the fact that they moved on and brought in another guy to try to win with. Just time in and time out, he's been done dirty, and now he kind of has to pay the price for the Bears having this gold mine of a pick, and it sucks for him.
No, yeah, and it does suck. And look, I don't think we've seen enough progress from Justin Fields, but we have seen a lot of incremental progress. And look, I know we want to count these last 2 interceptions from last week, but I'm not going to. And guess what? If he doesn't throw a pick over his last 3 games, that's almost a 2-month stretch of him not throwing an interception. You can say whatever you want about that, but in my opinion, that's kind of progress. Real quick, final score, Bears Cardinals this weekend. Who wins?
I got Bears 20, Cardinals 14. They're predicated on the run with James Conner and Kyler Murray. Bears do a phenomenal job stopping the run. Hollywood Brown's already out. I think this is going to be a pretty easy game and also the Cardinals run defense is just disgustingly bad. So the Bears are going to run all over them, make this a quick game, and they're going to get to 6-9, which is a very nice record.
This time of year, it's a very romantic record. It's very nice. I'll stick with you on that. I'm going to go to actually 26-20. I'm going to go a little bit closer of a game here because the Bears can't have anything easy. I just want to continue to root for, in my heart, strong offensive performances, multiple touchdowns in games. I may or may not need Cole Kmet this weekend in fantasy. So I'm also going to go 26-20 Chicago Bears win. and hopefully, build ourselves a nice little win streak heading into the final 3 games of the season. Brendan, it's time. 'Tis the season, my friend, to hand out our Chicago sports Christmas superlatives. Who's been naughty? Who's been nice? Let's find out. We got gifts in our bag to hand out for everybody. So, Brendan, here we go. Let's just start with one that's going to be near and dear to our heart. Let's start out on a positive note here. This one's called the the Chicago Sports Santa Award, the gift who keeps on giving. So, Brendan, who are you giving the award to? The Chicago Sports Santa, the gift that keeps on giving in Chicago sports is?
Oh, I had 2 really good answers for this. But you know what? I'll stick with the Bears themed for this one. And I'll say Montez Sweat, because since Montez Sweat came over for the Bears, he, like Santa, has just been carrying sacks all around with him and just unleashing them on opposing quarterbacks. This guy has helped transform the Bears defense. He's been a delight to have. His personality is great when you hear him talk, and just, what he does, what he brings to the locker room. But he has been such a pleasant surprise, especially for the fact that a lot of people were very uneasy about the Bears spending a 2nd-round pick to get him and then extending him. So I will say Montez Sweat is the Chicago Sports Santa, basically just because I wanted to make a sack, reference there.
He's been coming down the chimney, and in the backfield, he's been getting ho, ho, home. Stop us now, folks. Stop
my God.
Here
Nice.
We're having fun, everyone. Give me another Christmas cookie. Chicago Sports Santa, the gift who keeps on giving. I was thinking, as an honorable mention, I was also thinking Chicago Bear of DJ Moore, because not only did we get a chance to enjoy the excitement of him being acquired and becoming Chicago Bear, but how rare is it that a person actually comes to fruition, right? We get so excited about the potential of a particular player in a team, and the dude shows up. He is everything and more. The dude gets pissed off if he doesn't pick up extra 5 yards after the catch. That is like a prerequisite for him on every single play. So honorable mention there. I'm going to go with Brendan. The Christmas Sports Santa, the gift that keeps on giving from me is Connor Bedard. Because the gift who keeps on giving, Brendan. I mean, buddy, hopefully we're doing this show for the next 20 years, and he is going to be every single year. Hopefully he's going to be in a Chicago Blackhawks uniform. Just real quick, man, he's awesome, man. He is when we talk about he's too, like, I'm like Caleb Williams, I'm worried he's too tiny. Connor Bedard is tiny. He looks like he is fit. I'm saying this in a compliment because obviously he's going to get older and get 20 and be able to drink one day and eventually rent a car and all that good stuff. But man, he is so small right now. To see how skilled he is, and to see how composed he is, it's pretty incredible, man. And he's on pace for, I think, 70 or 80 points in a rookie season, possibly 30+ goals. The gift who keeps on giving, sign me up, man. This guy. I mean, I don't even think we know how good he is yet.
Yeah, that was my other option, because it just made the most sense. He's made the Blackhawks relevant again single-handedly. Like, that's insane. And just watching him do his thing, like he seems to make just a miraculous goal every other night. And yeah, he reminds me in the sense, I'm only comparing them size-wise, like Patrick Kane. Like, everybody said, yeah, he's so small, he's undersized, but the dude just kept scoring. And isn't it weird that he's going to have to wait 3 more years to drink? We're 3 years away from Connor Bedard being able to actually legally drink. So he should be a Hawk for at least 15 years. That's so exciting. And just seems like a great kid too. He's had to go through, I'm not going to mention it, but like the social media crap, and he's handled everything super, super well. So I'm so happy that he's a part of the organization.
Yeah, and honestly, just to that point real quick, I think the Chicago Blackhawks actually have done a really nice job of this. Isn't about putting a bunch of talent around Connor Bedard right now at this point, but I just love the fact that they try to surround him. They obviously have some young players on the team, but they try to surround him with as many like veterans and assholes on the team as possible, just to get him through the rookie year, right? To kind of like shield and protect him a little bit. The guy who's no longer with the team anymore was one of those guys they tried to make a move on. But I think that I don't know, it's moving in the right direction right now. And hopefully he's the gift that keeps on giving for many years to come. Let's go to the other side, man. There's always, if there's a light, there's a dark. We have to hand out our Chicago Sports Grinch this year. Unfortunately, way too many options for my preference. I'm interested to see who you giving out the Chicago Sports Grinch to this year.
This one was easy for me. It's Jerry Reinsdorf. And look,
Ooh.
I am not. Yeah. If anything, he could be Scrooge too, just with, like just the grumpy old man up there saying, I don't want to spend anything on any sort of team. Look, I'm not a White Sox fan. I'm a big Cubs fan, but I do genuinely feel for White Sox fans having to deal with an owner who goes out in front of the public and says, literally, we're not going to spend on Shohei Ohtani. We're already taking ourselves out of that. That's ridiculous. Like, how can you be a fan of a team of a guy that just already takes the loss and says, yeah, we're not spending like that. We don't do that. We operate like a small market team, and we're just going to ride the fact that we're going to try to develop talent. And it's horribly run. Same thing for the Bulls. I mean, you got lucky once in the 90s and you're trying to ride off that for as long as you can. They barely spend. They barely do anything right. They've ran back the same sort of operation, even though it wasn't working. Like literally, we saw last year just what was happening with that. And the owner and the team just said, yeah, we'll see what happens again. Maybe add one piece. And just has not gone the way that they thought, even though everybody else thought it would go the same way. So yeah, Jerry Reinsdorf, easily the Chicago sports Grinch. Nothing's ever good with that guy, no matter what.
I mean, it's all the same, right? I mean, I wanted to throw like a Pedro Gaffal in there, pick maybe any member on the White Sox this particular year. But I mean, I have to agree with you. I don't even know if there's an honorable mention right now. It is. I mean, it's Jerry Reinsdorf, and unfortunately, the worst part about it is there is a really interesting window these next 5 years where I don't really see a path of. I mean, unless Chris Getz, the only caveat, right, is Chris Getz, if he turns into a top 10 executive in baseball, which is possible. We don't know anything about him, so let's give him some time. But unless that happens and he turns the organization around from the inside, we're looking at a really tough 5 years for the White Sox fans. I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to move to Nashville, but that leverage and that specter is real, and it's going to get gross. It really is, and it's going to leave a really weird taste in the mouth because Jerry now obviously getting up there in age. Obviously, he wants to secure a new stadium because of probably all the different types of control and the new way that they can write all the contracts that probably were written wrong about 25 years ago, or 30 years ago when they opened up New Comiskey. I just think it's going to get ugly and it's going to get really weird and it's going to get really dark. And unfortunately, I'm a little scared about it. The other Chicago sports Grinch I wanted to kind of throw out there real quick was Scott Boras. I know he has no affiliation to Chicago sports right now, but he is literally fucking up my baseball offseason in so many different ways. And he seems to do it every single year. I wanted to throw that one out there possibly too as well.
It's a good one. Yeah, just get Bellinger back, please. Just something for the Cubs. Spend some money and just let Boras just, I don't know, make him feel important or whatever. Just give the money. Let the Cubs do something because I'm starting to panic.
We had a couple more to go. You had a couple that you wanted to spring on me, and I wanted to be surprised. So I wanted you to throw one of them in now. So which one you got? What do you have for Chicago sports Christmas superlative?
All right. So this one is Santa's elf. The Chicago sports person or people who do a lot of the work but don't get a ton of credit at the end. So I'll go first. Mine is Phil Snow. And not because his name is Snow, but the fact that the Bears brought this guy on as a defensive consultant back in October. And ever since he came on, I know part of this has been part of the Montez Sweat deal, but the Bears defense has looked so much better. They're not having blown plays. Like, they're in the spots that they need to be in. The scheme is sound. And I think it's because of Phil Snow. He's doing a ton of advanced scouting for them, and it's paying off on game days. So really, he's the elf doing all the work during the weeks, like leading up to it. And then he gives his plans to Matt Eberflus and Santa, and then they get all the glory, all the players, all the coaches on game day when the defense goes well. And he's kind of sitting in his little cottage being like, yeah, I helped do that. So yeah, he's kind of the Chicago sports, the Chicago Bears, at least, Santa's little elf for doing all the work.
That's awesome. I have a ton off the top of my head. The first one is I think I would want to nominate the Chicago Bears ground crew at Soldier Field this year, because strangely, every single year we bitch about there's some sort of bitch about the turf. It gets pitched up, it gets muddied up, it gets all screwed up. I don't really feel like that we've heard that a lot this year. I haven't seen a lot of games where, guys just like can't make. Remember those games where like you were like, oh man, Matt Forte is gonna go nuts, but all of a sudden he can't hit the edge because he can't like plant his like right foot into the turf, and
the field is brown. Literally, it's brown.
I'll throw that out there. I can't remember the guy's name right now, but the hitting team that the Chicago Cubs hired to remake Cody Bellinger's swing. I think that's definitely a worthy one. But honestly, Santa's elf right now, the one is doing a lot of work but not getting a lot of credit. That's Kobe White, my friend. The Chicago Bulls now 8-3. Well, 8-3 in their last 11 games. And when we want to talk about, if you want to pull up their payroll sheet and look at 1, 2, 3, you got yourselves Vooch, you got yourselves DeMar, you got yourselves a guy named Zach LaVine. We talk about the headliners on this team. Ever since Zach LaVine's gone down, I mean, I think he's getting the proper shine in Chicago right now. But Kobe White has been absolutely fantastic. Everyone was worried, can he play the point guard role? I think he's done that and then some. I think he's averaging over 6 assists a game during that stretch. He's up to 5 a game now this year. So, I mean, the guy has been super helpful that maybe, I don't know, is maybe saving the Chicago Bulls season so they get in the play-in game and then get their ass kicked in the first round, which, hey, is something to be proud of in the NBA now these days. I want to give it up to Kobe White. I'm going to throw one in there, and then you're going to get your next one in.
Okay.
We're ripping through these. The person you would most want to drink too much eggnog with.
Had a lot of
cup of nog with.
Yeah. Had a lot of options for this one, but I got to go with my favorite Bears player of all time since I've been watching. That's Brandon Marshall. I love Brandon Marshall. I love his game. I love what he brought to the Bears, and he is such an interesting dude. Like, just hearing him talk, he has just incredible stories, a very unique outlook on life. And I would just love to talk with him about the end of the Lovey era, the Trestman era, which is still the most fascinating era of Bears football, in my opinion, just because of how wrong it went. I want to talk about Jay Cutler. I want to talk about him playing the position because like I said, I love the way he played the game. I think he'd just be a very interesting person to just share a drink with and talk about life in general. So yeah, got to go with my guy, B. Marsh.
I love that. We've had this conversation before too, as well. I know that no one likes to even think about that era, but I still think Brandon Marshall is the greatest Bears receiver that I've ever seen in my lifetime. I mean, I know DJ Moore has been great this year. A lot of people like to throw out a couple of different names, but man, the numbers that he put up, how dominant he was in the red zone. And then he's a go-to receiver and a guy who was dominant in the red zone. You can just throw the ball to him. I just think, I don't know. We don't talk about him enough, maybe for reasons or whatever, personality reasons or whatever, but on the field, he was fantastic. A person who I want to drink too much eggnog with, buddy, this one's easy. Give me Dan Feeney, the backup center on the Chicago Bears, baby. Oh, we're going out. We're getting White Castle afterwards. We're going to Steak and Shake. We're going into Blockbuster, and we're renting 7 movies, and we're coming back. Me and Dan Feeney. My question is, if you gave him like a little cup to drink, would he just pick up the whole thing and then just drink? Would he be just drinking from the?
Yeah, he'd take the bottle. Oh, he would definitely take the bottle and just be like, "All right, where's yours?" What a pull, man! Oh my god,
that was easy. That was super easy. I'm not looking to have an interesting time. I'm looking to have just looking to have a blackout kind of night. Right. Toss me yours. We got a couple minutes left. Toss me yours. Give me another Chicago sports superlative.
All right. This is the Chicago sports Rudolph. And that is someone who is different, maybe kind of like started off a little slow, wasn't, counted on, but then delivered when crunch time came on and they were needed or they were called upon to do it. And it's interesting that you said Kobe White was the elf, because I think Kobe White is the Rudolph here because he's kind of a different cat. He's he's been hit or miss, kind of that 6-man kind of type. I mean, he was passed over in the rotation for a couple of years, especially when Zach LaVine got going and Billy Donovan came in. But then this year, Zach LaVine gets hurt. And then they need Kobe White to play that point and to step up and to really fill that void. And he's done it phenomenally. Like you talked about his stats, like the 20-point streak, the fact that his assists are up, the fact that he is just delivering at crunch time. I think Kobe White is leading that Bulls sled with his big red nose because the Bulls are seeing red. You see red, you respect red with Kobe White now.
When you see red, that means there's presents on the way, baby. I love that. That's a fantastic call. I think for me, the honorable mention would probably be Seiya Suzuki. Unfortunately,
nice.
I think that the drop ball in right field was it very Rudolph like? I'm just gonna throw that out there like that. So Seiya would be my backup. I'm gonna give this one out to. This might seem like a little bit of surprise. I want to give this one to TJ Edwards, and here's why.
Okay.
Now TJ Edwards, I understand he was leading. I think all linebackers. He was ahead in tackles early on in the season, but we weren't really talking about him a lot. But just from what I've seen in this Bears resurgence over the last 4, 5, 6 weeks, I mean, man, I see a lot of Lance Briggs in TJ Edwards now. That speed, that low, he's almost like kind of low to the ground when he runs, and he just hits you right in the center. He's in the mix on almost every single play. He's around the ball all the time. He's beating pass rushers to the quarterback. I think the dude's doing a little bit of everything. And a couple of those tip passes or a couple of those hits have turned into a Traymon Edmonds, pick six, things like that. So I think quietly from that linebacker position that we spent so much money on in the offseason, I think he's starting to really kind of lead the way. And I really like for the dollars per the play, that's turning into like one of the best free agent signings Ryan Poles era. I mean, am I wrong on that right there? I mean, like he's really turning into a really interesting, phenomenal player.
Dude, you're so right. I said it when he was signed. I said, we're going to look back on this deal and this player and say this was our one of, if not the best signing that Ryan Poles has made in his Bears career, because I was so excited for him coming in. And look, he was an undrafted free agent in Philly too. He came up from nowhere from Wisconsin. So nobody kind of thought early on in his career that he would have this type of success. And even then, coming to the Bears, well, Tremaine Edmonds is the bigger name, but I always felt that TJ Edwards was the better signing and was going to deliver more bang of the buck, I guess, more bang for the buck. But yeah, I think that's a great pick. And I love the Lance Briggs comparison. I didn't think about that, but you're right. Like prime Lance Briggs,
the way he's getting sideline to sideline right there, the nose for the ball, the point of impact when he hits somebody, his propensity to kind of get his hands on the football or tip stuff right now, it's looking real Briggs-ish. And man, you're bringing up a great point where I think that was one of the deals too, was like, was he going to be able to thrive in a little bit of a bigger role? Oh yeah, he's on the Eagles. That defense is stacked. Let's see what he's like on another team. I think it's a fantastic signing. And the dude's gotten better as the season's gone along, and he's in the prime of his career. He loves being in Chicago. And I think that that's something that we could really hang our hat on moving forward. Next one, the white elephant, the Chicago sports gift you wish you could get rid of.
Zach LaVine.
I was going to say it. I was almost going to make us go like 1, 2, 3. Zach LaVine, right?
Yeah. He's overpaid. The Bulls are thriving without him. How do you, for a guy who can score like that, and I'm not saying that Zach LaVine isn't a good player, but he does not fit the system. But to go out and have the team not only just survive without you, but thrive without you, everybody buys into the system. Why can't you do it? And now the Bulls are dangling him like, hey, does anybody want this very overpaid scorer? No. So like we're trying to get rid of him and nobody wants him. It's that very nice homemade gift that you get at your office Christmas party that, you're just kind of holding up. Like, does anyone want to steal this? No? You sure? All right.
This really expensive, heavy architectural book for your coffee table that's way too big for your small coffee table. Does anybody want it? No, man, look, I was with you, man. So before, look, I've never been a big Zach LaVine fan. I try and be supportive about him. I don't try and hate on the guy, but I never thought the dude, I just didn't think that he was a winning player. You can watch in the game. He doesn't really take over in moments when the team needs to. When the team needs to get a bucket, it was always DeMar DeRozan. And when they wanted to trade him, I was like, well, you better get some value out of it. So you better really take your time and figure it out. But now I'm at a point right now where, man, just give me Tobias Harris and a couple of pieces from the 76ers, dude. And let's roll with what we got, man. I mean, we're not winning a title anytime soon, but it's at least better version of basketball that I enjoy. And it's something that can actually allow players to develop within the system. And you're starting to learn in the NBA now. We see it with Kobe White, see it with Lauri Markkanen. Wendell Carter, hopefully Patrick Williams. I know I'm naming all Bulls right now, but when you draft these guys and they're 18 and 19 years old, it really takes them like 5 years. It's pretty crazy, but you really can't like bail on a guy anymore after like 3 years. You really got to kind of like dig your heels in and see what you got after like 4 or 5. And I think the environment for Patrick Williams to get where we hope that he can be is better now with Zach LaVine off the team. So give me Tobias Harris. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's probably where I'm at with that. Final one, and we're getting out of here. This last one is called Silent Night. Now, Brendan, this is the most – I want you to just name me what the most frustrating aspect to you right now is across Chicago sports. It could be a team, it could be a player, it could even be a fandom, a person, a narrative, whatever it is, that isn't moving anytime soon, but honestly just kind of like gets under your skin that you just wish it would just – can we just get some silence on this narrative for a little while? What would that be? The floor is yours.
So I'm going to say this correctly. The Bears' inability to develop a franchise quarterback. I mean, it's as simple as that. Like, you always hear it. Many people are just like, don't draft a quarterback because the Bears are just going to screw it up again. It's like, then why even try? Why are we watching sports? Like, what's the freaking point here? And it's really sad, especially we talked a lot about Justin Fields already. I mean, we don't need to rehash that. I will say, though, a memory sticks in my mind. And that is back in 2021 when the Bears drafted Fields. It was the day after, so the Friday morning. I'm listening to Lawrence Holmes, doing stuff around the house, and he said something that has stuck with me ever since. And he said, I'm paraphrasing, part of me wishes that Justin Fields never takes a snap with the Bears because then we will not be disappointed. And when this inevitably goes south, we'll still at least have the forever hope and ride that just, the hope that things could be better. And really that offseason was so much fun. Everybody was just on the same side. People were ecstatic, hopeful. Training camp was must watch. Preseason was must watch. And now almost 3 years later, the fan base is more divided than ever. And we have yet to see consistency out of it. So, it's the narrative that there's an inability to develop a franchise quarterback, that the Bears are cursed when it comes to quarterbacks. I just want that to go away forever.
Here, cheers to that. Honorable mention is probably that the Chicago Cubs are a big market team. Because look, now I'm not advocating that you spend $1.1 billion on 2 players. But what that does is it creates a standard of a specter, if you will, that says, well, we would never do something like that. So it lets you get away with not doing something that's maybe like 2 or 3 steps down below, right? Like the Cubs have never spent more money on $175 million. They haven't given out a $200 million contract to a player yet. Now that is my point. That says that they are not a big market team. You can be somewhere in the middle on that one there. You don't have to spend $500 million, but you can definitely spend $200, $220 million. But I'll be very fair. That's something that we're going to have to see if it plays out over the next couple of months, especially with Cody Bellinger. But man, you're 100% right. And if I can only impart one more thing as we go, I respect everyone when they want to have a deep-rooted opinion and when we want to get into this right and wrong business. Again, I want the Chicago Bears to win. I think right now that they could have success if they keep Justin Fields, right? If they move on from Justin Fields, I am not going to next year say, well, we should have kept Kyle Orton. You know what I'm saying? Like, at some point we all have to move on and decide whether we want to support the player or the team. And if you want to support the player, that's great. Get yourself an Atlanta Falcons jersey, which I said 4 months ago. If they move on from Justin, I think that's probably where he'll end up playing. And I do think that he could possibly have success there. But as we kind of suss this out over the next 4 months, whatever decision the Chicago Bears make, I'm going to wrap my head around the Chicago Bears being successful by making that decision. And whether we're right or wrong, we'll live with it at that time. But flipping out over pro-Justin, anti-Justin, pro-Trubisky, as you mentioned, whatever that is, I mean, as we move forward, we have to get past like whether we're right or whether we're wrong. It's really not about that. It's about whether the Chicago Bears win or the Chicago Bears lose. That's probably the thing that I would like to see kind of like flushed out of the system of our Chicago sports fandom over the next couple months.
Yes, or just like enough of keeping receipts, or just, wanting to be right more than wanting your favorite team to win. Like, nobody really cares. I mean, I know the person themselves care, but nobody else cares. Like, if you're trying to dunk on everybody, like, it's just annoying. So yeah, we all want wins. We all want the team to be successful, whether that's Justin Fields, whether that's, I mean, it's not going to be, but whether that's Tyson Bagent, just make it happen. And let's be happy that the fact that, the organization that we root so strongly for, that has not won a division in 5 years, that has not won a playoff game in 13 years, actually find success. I don't care who it's with. I root, like you said, you root for the player. As also, I'm always going to support Justin Fields wherever he goes. I'm going to support a lot of the Bears wherever they go, unless it's Green Bay. But I always root for the name on the front of the jersey more than anything.
Yeah, look, we won games with Shane Matthews. We went to the Super Bowl with Rex Grossman, for crying out loud. I mean, like, at some point, I want to get it right, you know what I mean? But whoever's under center for the Chicago Bears next year, I'm going to support, I'm going to cheer for. Even if at this point I still think it should be number one. If it isn't him, I'm going to wrap my head around and get around the next guy, because whoever the next guy is, we really hope that he better damn well be it, right? So he's going to need all the support he can get. Brendan, man, let's get out of here. Happy holidays to everyone. Thank you for checking out this exclusive Believe in Bears episode. Had a little Christmas fun towards the end. Today's episode is presented by betonline.ag. Please use promo code BELIEVE over this holiday weekend. You'll receive a 50% welcome bonus when you use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, on your first deposit. Go ahead and check that out. A lot of great NFL action, a little basketball going on too as well. I'm Joey Christopoulos. You can follow me at Joey Sports Guy. On behalf of Corey Wooten, my partner, happy holidays to you and yours. Happy New Year too as well. Brendan, my friend, man, thank you so much for coming on this special episode, dude. Again, like, you know how I feel about you, but I'm just going to say it out loud to the audience here. If you guys aren't following Brendan's work right now, he's going to tell you his social handle to check out. Please do. Fantastic with the written word, fantastic on the podcast, fantastic tweet, great sense of humor, dialed in, knows the Chicago Bears intimately. Thanks so much for coming on, my friend. It's great to see you. Happy holidays.
Dude, you too, Joey. You are honestly one of my favorites. You deserve so much more love on Bears social media than you're getting, because you are just, your stuff. You produce a fantastic podcast. I'm not just saying this. And it's just been fun to continue to talk sports with you. And, always talking with you is a highlight for me. So make sure you follow me on Twitter at Brendan Sugrue. That's Sugrue. Check out my work at BearsWire, posting something pretty much every day, as well as the rest of the staff. And then the Bear Down Chicago podcast with myself, Ryan Dangle, Jack Wright, Patrick Sheldon. We have a very special guest coming up next week. So we can't say who it is yet, but it is going to be, it's one of the biggest guests we've had, and I know everybody's really excited about it. So make sure you tune in on December 28th, I believe, is when that's going to happen. So, but yeah, man, Joey, thank you so much. I hope you and your family have an awesome holidays. Hopefully we get through the final few games of this season and just enjoy what is going to be one hell of an off season.
Thank you for listening to us on the Believe Network, wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for watching us right here at Sports Talk Chicago. Everyone, be well, be safe. Please be good to each other. And remember, around this holiday season, if Dan Feeney comes up to you and asks if you want some eggnog, you say yes. We're out of here.